What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things
With Shawn and Andrew,
a podcast all about couples and the things they go through.
Today we sit down with Cedric and Charlotte Thompson, and these two have been really nice to us, really good friends to us in our life. Cedric was an NFL player for a couple years. He was drafted to the Dolphins, I believe, then bounced around to a couple of different teams, including the Patriots. And when I was released by the Jaguars is when Cedric and I first connected. We were both kind of the only two NFL players who documented our journeys bouncing from team to team, getting cut, getting picked up. Cedric does a way more he does way better cinematography than I do.
Let's just say different.
Different. Okay, we'll say different.
Our styles are different.
But he reached out to me when I got released by the Jaguars and was super encouraging to me. And that kind of started this relationship where I actually was able to go up to Minneapolis and visit Cedric and Charlotte and meet their little girl, Madeline. They have since had a second child, Luca.
Yes.
And we're big fans of the Thompsons. We cover a lot of topics today.
We talk about a lot. We talk about kind of roller coasters and challenges within relationships. Yep. One of the ones that they had to go through when they were dating was infidelity, which we talk a lot about. They talk about the instability of work and how that affects a relationship.
We know all about that.
Yes, both financially and within like where your home is. Yeah. There's something really crazy about the NFL and a lot of careers where you bounce around all over the country, all over the world, and you don't have that stability within your house. So we talk about a lot of different things, how they've gone through it and how they've ultimately become stronger through all of it. I think it's a journey we really related to and something we really enjoyed talking about.
Yeah, we are big fans of Cedric and Charlotte and the whole Thompson clan. They put out a lot of content themselves, and we'll link all of their stuff in the show notes down below. But they have a YouTube channel called As Said by Me. They have a podcast called Said by Charlotte. They have wonderful Instagram pages. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. But before we get started, make sure you give the show a subscription and rating on whatever platform you're listening to. And let us know what you think about this episode. We're excited to get your feedback. We always love hearing from you. So let us know. And let's go ahead and jump into this one with Cedric and Charlotte. Cedric, Charlotte, thank you for joining us today. It's good to see your faces.
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate you for having us, bro. Nice to finally formally meet Shawn.
Yes. I feel like I know everything about you guys through Andrew and social media, and I've never met you. So it's great to finally meet you.
So let me give a little backstory to how I became aware of you guys as a family. My brother actually sent me a link to one of your videos of you documenting you getting cut or retiring. I forget exactly what it was. But it was during a time where I was going through the exact same thing, kind of documenting my NFL journey. He was like, hey, this guy's doing something super similar to you. You should reach out to him. So I reached out to you, and you ended up like, bro, at one of my toughest moments in life, providing some epic encouragement right after I got released from the Jaguars. You sent me like this, holy smokes, it was transcendent, but I appreciate that. And so it's been fun to kind of keep in touch since then. I guess it's probably been like 2 or 3 years, but lots happened, and you guys have been through a lot, including having a couple kids, which
the most beautiful 2 baby girls. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
They're gorgeous.
But I would love if
so is Drew.
Oh, thank you.
Could you guys talk about your relationship, kind of generally give a little background, talk about your NFL career, and then maybe how long you guys been married?
Okay, so we live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I came up here on a full-ride scholarship to the University of Minnesota. And then
he didn't know where Minnesota was.
Go first. And the crazy thing is, I had no idea where Minnesota was at. I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just go there because nobody in my family went to college. So I was like, okay, wherever I can go to college, I just want to do it because nobody's ever done it. Mm-hmm. Then I came to Minnesota, and then I saw the first thing they did was take me to the Mall of America, and I was like, okay, I want to go here before even like seeing the school. So then I went to the school, did my whole freshman year, and then at the end of not the end of my freshman year, but the end of like football season, I run into her at a party.
Yeah, we were at one of his teammates' apartments, and I was getting over like a high school relationship. And one of my best friends was like, okay, I'm going to get you over the hump of like this last relationship. You're not looking for anything serious. Cedric was definitely not looking for anything serious. She's like, we're just going to play a game. You just pick somebody in the room and we're going to go up to them and I'm going to say, hey, have you met my friend Charlotte? And that's it. You just talk to them and like something super light, nothing serious. So she's like, who do you want to talk to? And I look around the room. And it was kind of dark, but I was like, him. And we walk over and she's like, hey, have you met my friend Charlotte? And he's like, no.
And at this point, I was like super quiet. I did not talk. I was just like, okay, like I didn't talk to anybody. And when she came up to me, I was just like, no.
Who are you?
I don't know who Charlotte is.
Yeah. Terrible conversation.
We were just sitting there and we ended up talking, and
that was 8.5
married with
years
2
ago.
kids.
Dang.
Funny. Did you guys like hit it off that night?
No,
did it become a relationship immediately?
The Siri is on.
Turn this on.
Hold on, wait.
Sorry.
All good.
The Siri is on.
The Siri cut on, and so you guys cut out.
Oh, funny.
Who said,
Sorry.
are you serious?
Don't say serious, said.
I was kidding. Feel free.
No, that's what triggered it.
Okay, here we go.
At least we know that Apple's listening in at all times. But
Yes. No, I was curious. Did you guys hit it off right then? Did you start dating immediately, or was it just this random thing that kind of played out?
Well, for me, it was like we didn't start dating like right away, but I knew.
Let me tell you what happened, Shawn. Let me tell you the truth.
No, I'm going to tell my side, because every time we do this, it's always like this debate, and like and then she always goes first, so I'm going to go first this time.
Okay,
honey,
go ahead.
love you. So, what happened was I met her the first night, and yeah, we like hung out, and like she invited me over to her place to hang out the night we met. And I'm going to be fully transparent here. We didn't do anything. And I think at that point, and then at that point in my relationship, in my singleness, I was kind of doing whatever I wanted. I was like talking to girls and doing whatever. And then when I met Charlotte the night we hung out, we didn't do anything. And that like kind of struck me. I was like, oh dang, like that's crazy. And then we were just talking, and we stayed up till like 3-4 in the morning, just talking about each other's lives. And like, I'm like, nobody ever asked me questions about my life. Like, that's weird. You know what I'm saying? And then we just stayed up talking. And I'll never forget that night. I mean, well, the morning that I left, I was like, I like really like this girl. And I like knew her for like 7 hours.
Okay, but it didn't happen overnight of us just jumping into dating. We were hanging out like all the time for 7 or 8 months. And Cedric was a freshman, and he was, like he said, he was just talking to girls and having fun. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. Like, you either need to get with it or get lost, and we're either going to get serious and you're going to be my boyfriend, or we're not going to talk anymore. I'm like, so you need to ask me to be your girlfriend.
I asked her on the spot.
He asked me on the spot. I was like, I wanted you to like think about it. Don't just ask. But he asked me and I said yes. And so that was like 8 or so months into hanging out with each other.
You asked immediately after she said that? You said, will you be my girlfriend?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, because we were just laying down, and like it was like late. I had like practice next day, and she was like, you gotta ask me to be your girlfriend. I was like, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? Like, come on, you wanna just do this thing?
That easy.
I
And then
feel like
she's
as
like,
a girl,
no,
you're
you
just
can't
like,
just
oh.
tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have
exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what
expectations.
happened.
You're like, no, I wanted you to go
and then-
home. I wanted you to come back, bring me flowers, do this
Think about
huge
it.
thing. Yes.
Yeah, and now just when I asked her, she's like, no, like you should think about it. I said, no, I'm sure. Like you want to be my girlfriend. Like let's just do this
Well,
now.
that's
And
cute.
that
He
was it.
knew.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start dating
So yeah,
about 8 months after you guys met. How long into dating before you knew, like, I could spend the rest of my life with this person?
Well, for me, like the beginning of our relationship was really tough, because when I met Charlotte, I was kind of like really in the mix of like doing whatever I wanted, being single, and I truthfully and honestly, I wasn't like really ready to let that go at that time in my young life.
A lot of people aren't.
And so
That's
I
normal.
was, yeah, and I was still kind of doing what I wanted when I was with Charlotte in the beginning. So like that kind of put like a rocky start in our relationship, and like playing football and stuff, like it just came that's part of the whole deal.
No, Cedric, I was a long snapper, so I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no clue.
Okay. So I'll speak for the DBs then. So I was still in the beginning. I was still kind of doing like what I wanted, and then my AirPod keep falling out. And yeah. So the first like couple of years, it was like kind of me like, I wasn't doing it the whole like couple of years, but it was me kind of break all these old habits of being single really all my life and doing whatever I wanted to like being with somebody who I really loved and cared about, but these old habits I couldn't break, you know what I'm saying? Cause it was just what was ingrained in me for so long.
Yeah.
So, but to answer your question, I knew like selfishly, I knew pretty quick, like within like the 8 months, but I just think my old ways, it took me a while to break them.
Yeah. And I would say I knew early. We moved really fast after we started dating. Like we moved in together a year into dating in college. So I knew, but we weren't doing things like the right way.
Yeah.
And so it took like our relationship going and like just shattering for us to like really get it together and rebuild much stronger. So that happened about 3 or 4 years into our dating relationship.
This was going into the NFL. So like we did all of college, and then I get drafted into the NFL. And then when being drafted, Charlotte found out some bad news about me, things that I've done. And it like rocked our relationship. And I was in Florida training for the pro day, and she was in Minnesota. And then that's when she found out. And then it was just
but honestly, like I don't wish being cheated on, let's just call it what it is, on anyone, but it was the best thing that like me finding out was the best thing that happened to our relationship. Yeah.
How did you find forgiveness, Charlotte?
Oh, that took a long time. Like that was not an overnight thing. And for a while we kind of like broke up, and I was like, I'm just going to focus on myself and my own faith. And that time was so critical because we both took that time apart to really focus on ourselves and working on our own hearts, so that when we did come back together, we were in a much different place. But forgiveness, that's like a process. It's not you just decide in your head. Like it was a lot of communication about how I was feeling, and Sed had to be really patient with me too. So, you know, fortunately I had a partner who was committed to making those changes for me, but I also had to be committed to trying every day to forgive and keep moving too.
Yeah, what do you mean? What
it was
What do you mean Cedric had to be patient with you too, Charlotte?
Well, like there were days where I wanted to just rip his head off, and I was just pissed.
Oh my God, I'll never forget this story. So I'm training in Florida, and we had already booked a trip for her to come prior to her finding out that I cheated on her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well this is kind of canceled, but she wanted to come. I'm like.
Because at this point we were talking about like where we go, like are we gonna try to keep going?
You were more so like yelling at me. We weren't really talking about it. You were like kind of just yelling at me all the time. But so we pick her up, and like mind you, the drive to the airport in Orlando, because I was training at Worldwide Sports with Tom Shaw. The airport's like an hour away. So I pick her up, and as soon as I pull up, she looks at me and like rips open the door, throws her bag in there, and slams the door. And I was like, "Can I have a hug?" And she's just like, "No," and looking out the window. So mind you, I'm like, "Okay, this drive is an hour long." So I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna drive, and when she's ready, she's ready. Probably like 5-7 minutes into the drive. Do you know? I'm just like, okay. At this point, I'm listening. I'm like, okay, I kind of prepared for this. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take all these punches. I deserve them. So I'm just like listening to her, and then as the hour went on, you know, it kind of digressed a little bit. It got better, and then it was like once we got to the place where I was staying, we were able to talk and like get to a place where we can where she can look at me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like she couldn't even look at me. It was like the most like disheartening thing when you know like somebody you love so much who loves you, and when you see how much you hurt them to where they can't look at you because they're in that much pain. It was really, really difficult.
I'm curious how it is for you to talk about this, Ed.
I don't. It is what it is. I'm a big person, and like, I believe that everything that ever happens in my life and now our life being married, everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. I don't wish to do bad things. I don't wish bad things to happen to people, but I believe all the things that I've been through in my life, period, have made me the person that I am today. Mm-hmm. So I don't look back with any regrets. And what I always say is, like, I make decisions based on the information that I had at the time. I didn't have somebody teaching me how to treat women, how to look at women. I didn't. All my things came from music, from being in the locker room, from being around guys who I didn't necessarily look up to, but I thought this was the right way to do it. So it wasn't necessarily my fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, the action wasn't my fault, but the way that I was taught it, it's not mine. And that's what, we got 2 girls. If I have a son one day, I'll be able to teach him the right way, because I did all the wrong things and I was able to be with somebody who's able to work through that with me. Mm-hmm. So I have no shame at all in talking about it. We talk about it on the channel and everything, like story time, all that good stuff.
It's I've been reading a couple books that I feel like relate to this idea of, well, it wasn't necessarily on purpose that this information got to Charlotte, or that you guys had to deal with this unfortunate truth that was in the relationship. But I've been reading Principles by Ray Dalio, and he's all about like this radical transparency is what he calls it. And then the co-founder or CEO of Zappos, he talks about how like one of the biggest company values is just like honesty, and applying that to relationships. I think just being honest in any situation is super important, because as soon as you know what the truth is, as soon as you know what the reality is, then you can take the next step to like making the improvements. Like, hey, Cedric, you cheated on me. What's the next step that we can now get better from that? And I don't know if that's why you guys consider that one of the best moments in a relationship. But
well, I mean, I don't think any relationship is perfect by any means. And the people who are always like, oh, we don't argue, we don't fight, we don't do this, she wouldn't do that, he would, like, that's not a true relationship. I feel like true relationships are the ones, like you said earlier, where they shatter and they're literally broken down to their core, and you literally have to fight your way through it, because being in a perfect relationship, you don't know the whole, you don't know the whole person. If you haven't seen someone at their worst, you don't know how to love them at their worst, and you have to like work through it.
Sean's over here preaching right now. I see.
No, she's dropping them bombs right now. Bro. I was in the whole time. I was like, preach, facts, preach, the whole time.
Andrew and I had talked about this before. We've talked about like mistakes or sins or whatever it may be, and people try to put them on like a gradient scale of what is forgivable and what's non-forgivable. And if you have to measure mistakes, then you have this wrong perception of what is okay to get away with and what's not. And we just believe that mistakes are mistakes, and you have to fight your way through all of them. Yeah. So I think that's a great thing. Yeah, no question.
So we recently spoke with a couple who said that they're two, untouchables that they would walk away from the relationship with are if either of them cheated, or if either of them laid hands on the other person, like aggressively. Do you guys have any hard no's or hard outs like that? Like, if Cedric does this or if Charlotte does this, I just can't cope with that, and I couldn't forgive him.
To me, it's not about like if you do this one thing. It's like, well, first of all, no. But I'm trying to give my explanation here. There's no. I would never leave you, honey bear, no matter what. But the thing that I think I've struggled with subconsciously in the past, but now that I'm like kind of digging through my own emotions and understanding myself more, I think the one thing that's really is disheartening and discouraging for me, feeling like we're not getting anywhere, is if I communicate the same issue that I'm having over and over, and Charlotte would tell me that like she hears me, and then when the opportunity presents itself to like, show me that you hurt me, that is discouraging for me. You know what I'm saying? So like when that happens over and over, and I ain't saying you've been doing it lately, but when it happens over and over, that's difficult for me, and it makes me feel like, is this ever going to change? You know what I'm saying? Because like I feel like I'm not being heard. I feel discouraged. I feel sad. And when I I just constantly keep doing my part in communicating. If the information isn't being received and then, you know, she's not applied, then I'm just like,
it can be difficult.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, is this gonna be forever? You know what I'm saying? As far as like the cheating and stuff, it's like, no, but I hope that never happens. But like, no, I wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that it would be really difficult to work through that again now being married. I think Andrew brought up a really good point earlier, saying like you need to know the truth so that you can work through it together, because we were getting to a point before I had found out that Cedric was thinking about proposing, and I told him, if you would have proposed when I didn't know that you had cheated on me, like I would have been pissed. Like I would have felt like the marriage and everything was like invalid.
I was like really about to propose too. I'm talking about like ring shopping and like everything, because it was like it was like the whole dream, Andrew. Like I'm about to get drafted to the league. I'm about to propose to my girl. You know what I'm saying? Like that whole thing, and then. But
now going through that once, like in our dating relationship, I do think it would be really difficult to get through. Like now married and having a covenant and
a house,
but I don't think that it's impossible. There are people who do it every day. So,
yeah.
Do you guys have any non-negotiables?
No, I really don't. And I was kind of, in some way, surprised to hear that, because I just view marriage as this continual process of like, I do view it as we're freaking in this through thick and thin. Like whatever happens, we're going to deal with it. That's just my perspective on. And like, you know, I would hope that, and I know Shawn is like strong enough that like, if I was ever being physically abusive or like out of control, manipulative,
I get you back.
I think, well, no.
I'm kidding.
I think there probably, I think there's definitely scenarios that don't fly.
Yes.
But for like two, I think emotionally mature people, like I think we are the majority of times. I don't view there being anything that's like a hard out. But that's what it is so cool that marriage gives you an opportunity to be presented with the same situation day in and day out, like you're talking about, Ced, where you're communicating like, hey, would like this would mean a lot if you did this, or like I would love to see change in you in this area. And that's the hardest part though, and that's what takes work, I feel like, is being self-aware, so that when Shawn asked me to, what was it that we were talking about the other day? Not closing cabinets is like the one thing where whatever Shawn
mine just leaving towels in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, I do that too.
I wish Shawn left towels in the bathroom. She always uses them and then drops them randomly around the house. And
I wear it wherever my clothes are, and then when I put clothes on, it's gonna stay there. So,
but you're presented with the same situation maybe every single day, right? And then like at some point you're gonna be like, am I gonna deal with this the same way that I always have and frustrate my wife, or am I gonna make an attempt to change? Like that's simultaneously the most frustrating but powerful part of marriage. Okay,
I have a question for you guys, because I feel like it's, in my opinion, a lie that people try to tell couples who especially are dating going into marriage, which is that people can't change. What would be, because you always hear these questions of like, she did this, he did this, they act this way, they'll never change, they'll never like be different. What would you guys say to that?
From our experience, I would say that you can't make someone change. They have to want to do it themselves. Because like Cedric and I, for months and months and years, I was like, don't talk to other girls, like, and he'd be like, okay. But it wasn't until Cedric made that decision like within himself, and he got to a place with that emotional maturity where he was like, oh, okay, now I understand how like my actions like have consequences and how they can hurt other people. Like it had to be him. Just like Cedric can tell me something 15 million times, and it's not until like I say, okay, I want to make that change for us or for him or for myself. So I don't think that people can't change. I think that you can't change people.
Whoa, Charlotte dropping bombs now.
And maybe not change, but like evolve. At least.
I don't know. I look at it a little bit different. Like for me, I believe that people can change, like Charlotte said, but it's up to them to change. Mm-hmm. But the thing that we struggle with in our marriage is, I would say, like, this really makes Charlotte upset, but we're on a couple of things. We about to be real right now. So I think for me, like, Charlotte's like really close to her family. Mm-hmm. And I was raised in a way where like you were kind of like independent for yourself, but I also lived in houses where like a bunch of divorces had. I lived with my high school coach. His wife cheated on him. They got divorced. My mom and my dad were married. It was like physically and verbally abusive. They got divorced. So I see nothing but divorce. So a lot of the times when problems came up, and in the beginning, I would run away. I'm like, I don't need this. I can just go somewhere else. And I've kind of got over that threshold. Mm-hmm. And then when me and Charlotte got married, I started having kids. I started noticing like, I'm trying to be careful with my words. The things that I don't want to see in my household come from other places. And to me, that's always been difficult to understand. Like, can that be changed? But that's not my responsibility. It's up to like Charlotte. But then it's like us communicating about, okay, how do we want to parent? How do we want to talk to each other? And, you know, I always tell Charlotte, like, well, we talk about respect and love and being mean. What I learned is like respect and love, everybody has their own definition of that and what that looks like depending on how you grew up. So I look at all that into changing, like, can the definition of whatever you think that word or that emotion is, it's really difficult for that to change when like you've been bred by that. You know what I mean? Like I've had a survival instinct and mentality for so long that it'd be really difficult for me to change that. And that survival mentality can go into like an argument or in the way that we communicate or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So but I do believe people can change, but I think, like Charlotte said, I think it's up to them, and sometimes things have to happen for you to change. That's what ultimately happened to me about not talking to girls. Like, I never forget when Charlotte posted a picture on Instagram after I had cheated on her, and I can see the pain in her face. I can see like that like stress and hurt on her face. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. And it took that for me to change. You know what I mean? So you just, I don't know. You never know.
A thought on what you're saying though, because I feel like so many people, especially listening, go through the same thing. You question your genetic makeup. You were raised this way.
Exactly.
Your parents did it this way. But I think something really, really cool that maybe people can learn from is you're so self-aware of it that you can actively choose each day to be like, I don't want to repeat it. Even though it's hard. I don't think it's like your genetic disposition. I think it's just what you're used to, and you can actively choose to change it every day. Because Andrew and I talk about that with our daughter. What were we raised like separately? What habits do we want to continue doing? What things do we want to change? What do we actively not want to pass on to the next generation or pass on to the next generation? I think it's just the way you change is what you actively choose to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it does have a lot to do with habits. Said, I know you're big on like on the influence that the outside or like music, movies can have on your perspective. But a good example, I feel like, of changing what you're naturally falling into is like, I see that you're waking up at 4:30 every day to work out. Is that right? Why are you doing that?
That sounds crazy.
Well, to me, so for me, it's like, first of all, I don't really have time to like do it in the daytime. And like, for me, that's the only time where I kind of have like time to be with myself and pray and like work out or do yoga or whatever. And, you know, playing football, I always got up early anyway. And I was like the guy first one in the locker room, first one out. So I got up earlier. Last one. Yeah, it'd be bad if I was the first one out. Last one to leave. And when it was just ingrained in me, well, it kind of just happened over time. And now with the kids,
That's his only quiet time.
Yeah, like now with the kids, like I definitely got to get up now. You know what I'm saying? I really got to get up early because at first it was like 5 or 6, but now it's like I got to get up at 4:15 to be up at 4:30 and kind of get my day going. Like today, I got up at 3, so it just changes.
I am not a morning person.
Yeah, no.
The video I'm actually making is talking about that.
I want to hear about how the NFL was for you two as a couple.
Oh, Lord have mercy on my soul. That's why I wrote you, because I just knew the pain you was going through. But I'm like, man, let me write Andrew, man. Like I just know what he's going through. Like, oh my God, it was
a tough
hard.
3 years.
Yeah, it was hard, man. Like even when I think back at it now, I'm just like, we really did that. Like we really went through that. Like,
I think when people think about the NFL, they think of like the Tom Brady's, right? Where it's like multi-million-dollar contracts. He's with one team, well now 2 teams, but with one team forever and ever. And that's not the case for the majority of the players and the majority of the families that are employed by the NFL. So for us, we were in Miami where Cedric was drafted for the entire season, but from then on, we were bouncing around. And so we didn't have roots anywhere. And as you start to think about having kids, that adds a whole nother layer. And just like the inconsistency of having a job and getting paid and then not, it was really challenging, especially as newlyweds who were bringing like little kids into the equation too. So yeah, it was really tough, but it was his like lifelong dream that he was realizing. And so as his wife, I wanted to continue to encourage that. So even when Cedric was like, hey, I'm done, I was like, well, don't you want to just try, like go to that tryout or do that workout?
I probably were on like 2 more teams because of Charlotte. Because like after the Patriots, I was for sure, I'm like, I'm making this team. Like I'm balling, I'm doing my thing. And then when Bill had called me in to release me and he told me why, I was just like, I'm like, dog, I'm done. Like I can't, I'm over here, like, I don't know if I can swear on here, but like busting my ass like every day. You know what I'm saying? Like for that to happen there, I'm just like, bro, if I can't do it here, like I'm done. Like I'm just about to and at this time I had no YouTube channel or anything. I was just like, I'm about to go home and just figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But then I was so depressed. I was like, I'm about to just drive to Minnesota.
Seth hates driving. He was talking about driving from Boston.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, the NFL was really hard. Like, and I think what people also don't see is like, people think, like, oh, he's on a team or not on a team, but they're not seeing like teams calling you and you flying for a workout and there's 4 other guys and they all tell you no. They tell all of the guys, including yourself, no. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been to the Giants, the Cardinals, the Redskins, like stuff people don't even know about. You know what I'm saying? One, because I was embarrassed to say something. I was going to a workout because if I didn't make it, then it's like I kind of flew out here for half a day for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was hard.
NFL's no joke.
Seriously.
Going through all of that, I mean, it hits home for us, but what was it like, Charlotte, being his wife and being his number 1 fan? And I remember with Andrew, I could have cared less. Like, I didn't care if you made a team. I didn't care if you get cut from a team. And not like in an insensitive way, but it wasn't why I loved Andrew. Or I love you, not in past tense, babe. But like with every team, how do you as a wife support your husband? And I remember the times Andrew would call me depressed or upset or he had just gotten cut. How did you manage to lift him up? Because it's almost like you have to be this cheerleader for years at a time.
It was really hard because there were some moments throughout it where Cedric would want to talk, and then there were other moments where I would say something and he would be like, why are you talking to me? So just kind of like following his lead on it and trying to see like where he was at instead of just like pushing, like asking questions or pushing a conversation where he wasn't ready to have it yet. I think that was really helpful, but it was really hard to navigate as his wife because, like you said, I didn't care if he was playing in the NFL or if he was at home, or like the title of it didn't matter to me. But we were also sharing it on YouTube. And so everyone was saying like, oh, she's only with him for the money. And I'm like, what money? But more than just that, like, you know, so it was really hard to navigate for sure as a wife, where you wanted to be really supportive. And I wanted to like keep encouraging him. Like, if there's a door, go and open it and see, like, this has been your lifelong dream. But then also hearing him say like, I don't want to do it anymore. That was a hard one for me to be like, okay, are you sure? Like, you really don't want to do it?
Yeah, I started questioning myself because she was questioning me. I'm like, well, am I sure? I think I'm sure, but she keeps asking me if I'm sure.
Because I just never down the road wanted him to be like, well, what if I would have gone to that workout or whatever? So
that was, I think that was my hardest thing with Andrew, was when your husband is like, oh, I'm done. You don't want to be the wife that 5 years down the road, your husband's like, well, why didn't you push me to do one more? And it's like, this sucks. It's like, exactly. I want you home. And it's just, I remember I didn't want to make the decision for him. So I wanted to make sure he was deciding for himself.
I look back on the 5 years I was trying to do it. The one word that comes to mind right now is like instability. It was just, from a career standpoint, financial, freaking emotional, it's just a roller coaster, because you're sitting there, and I remember being in Arizona and they had to sign a player because their like starter got hurt. So there's 5 of us there, and they progressively sent guys home. So I'm sitting there, they send like the first guy home, give them their plane ticket. Send the second guy home, give him their plane ticket. I'm like one of the last 2. I'm like, this is it. I finally made my dream come true. I'm going to play in a game. Got my plane ticket like 5 minutes later and walked out of there. Just, you go from like super high, because it's so much more than a career too. It is a dream, like you're saying. So there's all these emotions that go into it too. But wild times.
So when you guys ended up deciding to walk away from the NFL, what was that decision like on your relationship? Because I know for us, it was scary. We didn't have anything set up yet. We weren't planning on what the next step was going to be. It was this kind of leap of faith. How did you guys navigate through that?
Huge leap. Yeah, so the end of his NFL career was actually just super crazy for us, because I was like 7 months pregnant, and we were back in Minnesota. He was with the Vikings, and we had just bought our condo here. This is where my family is. This is where we wanted to put down roots. And he was with the Vikings. And so we were like, this is awesome. Like, he's going to be here through the birth of our first baby, and then we'll go from there. And that was just after the draft. You got called in and they released him.
Yeah, because they drafted like safeties and they wanted to like give them a chance because that's a GM.
But everything had been going so well, and we thought for sure they would at least keep him till like training camp. Yeah. And so then I'm 7 months pregnant. Ced's out of a job. This was what we thought it was perfect timing. Like, we're in Minnesota. This is it. And now what? So then we went the whole summer, and I just, got more and more pregnant. And he was home, and we're like, okay, this is perfect. We'll have a baby, and then we'll figure it out. And 3 days before my due date, he got called to Cincinnati.
Oh my
So
gosh.
He hopped on a plane. He had to be on a plane within the hour. So we were like rushing, and I'm literally the most pregnant you can be.
Yeah.
And I sent him off, and it was just for a workout. So I didn't even know, like, was I leaving him for 24 hours or would he be back tomorrow? I didn't know. And they ended up signing him. And so he got to come home for the birth of our daughter. He was home for 16 hours. And then he had to fly out the next morning at like 6 a.m. to make it back in time for practice. And he was gone for the first 2 weeks of her life. And that was really, really hard for both of us, but especially for Cedric, because he was like, I've got a baby at home. This doesn't feel natural at all. I should be there with my wife and my new baby. And it was a huge blessing in disguise. But Cedric got injured, and he was just running down the field, and he totally messed up his hamstring, and he got to come home. And they said he would be out for 6 to 8 weeks, but he was out for the whole season. And so that really allowed us time, which was so crucial to kind of like ease into the idea of no longer having football, because we didn't have a choice. He had to get healthy. which was really tough. But by the time he was healthy, he was like, I don't want to go anywhere else. I've got a baby. I want to be at home with my wife and baby.
I was able to help raise Maddie for the first like 7 months. I'm like, dog, I'm done playing football. Like, this is all I want to do. And at this point, during that 7 months, I was able to really work on like my social media stuff and my YouTube and understand, okay, I can actually make this a living, and like I can be at home and work from home. And then I kind of like had to prove to Charlotte, I can do this. And I kind of like show like I can do this.
So he came to me and he was like, okay, I'm going to stop playing football and I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber. And I was like, what?
What does that even mean?
Like, I didn't even know that was the thing, that people did that. And I was like I had a more traditional outlook on work and what that meant. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to make videos and put them online? Like, I didn't know. And so it was a huge leap of faith to say like, okay, let's, jump from the roller coaster of the NFL to the roller coaster of social media and see where it goes. But we had a place. So
I want to jump in here and give you guys an update on something that happened recently. If you are one of our patrons and you subscribe to our newsletter, you already know that I had a second instance of passing out recently. Went to the doctor, did a whole series of tests. We'll probably do more videos on this, but essentially I have been passing out because of a lack of hydration, which is kind of wild to me because you know how much water I drink. And so what the doctor said though is, even though you're getting a lot of water, doesn't mean you're getting enough electrolytes that actually is the mechanism to help keep you hydrated. So we've talked to you about Liquid IV, and I want to tell you more about Liquid IV because that's what the doctor prescribed. And Liquid IV are little packets of electrolytes. They call it the hydration multiplier, but it has all sorts of things like vitamin B6, vitamin B3, vitamin B5, vitamin B12, vitamin C, all that help you stay hydrated.
It actually provides 2 to 3 times the amount of hydration as just regular water.
That's right.
I won't let Andrew leave the house now without his packets.
That's right.
It's a little lunchbox.
They have figured out this perfect balance of sodium and glucose levels in their mixture to help keep you super, super hydrated. And so I take at least one a day as the doctor prescribed, me personally. And we love it.
And can I just say they taste amazing.
They have all sorts of different flavors. They came out with a partnership with Steve Aoki and did strawberry cake flavored.
No way.
That was my
I'm a sucker for the lemon lime. It's literally my favorite.
So you can take them after hard exercise or before hard exercise, during hard exercise, after a long night of going out.
If it's too hot out, whenever you're depleted with hydration, or if you feel kind of run down, this is a great thing to take.
I've also been super impressed with Liquid IV during the recent pandemic. They have donated 2.3 million servings in response to COVID-19, and products are being donated to hospitals, first responders, food banks, veterans, and active military. So if you want to get yourself some Liquid IV, it's available nationwide at Costco and Target, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code EastFam at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you use promo code EastFam at liquidiv.com. Get better hydration today at liquidiv.com, promo code EastFam. And I also want to let you know about something I've used for 3 years now, and it's Skillshare. So I started using Skillshare before Shawn did.
Yes, now I use it. It's actually, if you don't know, it's an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. You can explore new skills, deepen existing passions, get lost in the creativity.
So let me just read you some of the classes that I myself have taken and completed. I took an introduction to social media strategy. I actually took an introduction to podcasting, and that's why we are here, is actually because of a class I took on Skillshare.
And then when we took our social media game kind of up a level, I actually took the creating your social media presence class, which really helped us kind of step up our game.
So they have classes on all different types of things, but they're all taught by the world's experts. And a lot of times they have curriculum that goes with it. They have handouts and worksheets. They also have workshops on Skillshare, and they're all really good. So you can learn from different teachers about different subjects. And
the next one I really want to study is photography. I want to be able to take incredible pictures.
I think you should. I think I'm the better photographer of the two here. So
was that a diss, kind of in a weird roundabout way?
And fun fact, I don't even know if you know this, but I actually have a class on Skillshare myself.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Why do I not know this about my husband?
It's a lot of fun. I love Skillshare.
Wait, are you going to tell me what it's about?
It's about social media, actually.
No way.
It's about all the things that we've learned and
I married a professor and I didn't even know
branding
it.
as well.
Anyways, if you want to explore your creativity and get 2 free months of premium membership, go to Skillshare.com/couple.
That's 2 whole months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free.
Get started and join today by heading to Skillshare.com/couple.
That's 2 free months of unlimited access to thousands of classes at Skillshare.com/couple. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Can't wait to hear what you learned.
Take Andrew's class. I think I might.
So you guys now not only have 1 girl, but 2. I'm curious what that's like, because we're now in 6 months of having our first daughter. And I feel like, honestly, this week is the first week that I've felt like really bonded to my child. I don't know. Man. I don't know how much crazier it gets with 2, but I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Dude, like that whole like not feeling bonded to the baby for like 6-7 months is real. Like, and then like staying up all night and like hearing the baby cry, you can't do nothing. And, like just watching Charlotte breastfeed the baby, I'm just like, bro, I can't. I just feel horrible. You know, I can't do anything. But I love having girls. Like I love having daughters. Yeah, I think it's great. Like,
it's definitely a little crazy with 2 because Maddie's only 2.5 and Luca is now 10 months. So we kind of, knocked him out back to back. And so it does get a little bit crazy, but it is really fun having 2 daughters so close in age because Maddie is like in love with being a big sister. Yes, she loves Luca. So it's really awesome to watch their bond form. But it was, definitely harder for Ced in the beginning to feel that connection right away, whereas moms, you're like, you've already been feeling the connection of them growing inside of you and then breastfeeding or just even holding your baby. I don't know. It's just different for moms. But yeah, Ced loves being a girl dad. I love having girls. Girls are great. All of his teammates are like, you need a boy.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I love being a girl dad too. It's like everything I dreamed of wanting. And I want to raise like a boss daughter. You know what I'm saying? But is having a second child, does that really inject chaos into life?
Oh God, yes. I'm not even gonna sit up here in front. Like Charlotte talks like, "Oh no, it's fine." It's like, no, it's not. Like this is hard. Like, I'm like dying over
it's here. Not that it's not hard. It is hard, but Luca is such an
she's a
easy
chill baby. Chill, yeah, okay.
Maddie was like just really, really hard for the first few months of her life. So when Luca came and she started sleeping through the night by herself, I'm like, okay, this is for me. I didn't have to get up and feed her in the middle of the night. I'm like, this is awesome.
It's hard because you get no break. Like either she has a baby or I have a baby, and if she has both of the babies, that's not for long. If I have both the babies, it's not for long. And it was kind of scary about having a third child. We were in California before like the coronavirus, and we were getting on the airplane, and I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, if we had a third child, I would have to either hold both of them or one of them. It has to be walking. I'm like, yo, we got to think about this. Like, this is like a whole nother deal here.
Right now it's 1v1.
Yeah.
2v2.
Yeah. I'm just like, yo, like, this is serious. You know what I'm saying? We don't get a break and whatever. But the thing is, like, I love my kids. Like, man, like seeing them interact with each other. Like Luca's like standing now and like Maddie like holds her. Like, it's the best feeling in the whole world. It really is.
And we were like 20-something-year-old grandparents before we had kids. Like we never went out or anything. So our kids just made us more fun.
Yeah.
That's funny. This is throwing it back to earlier in the episode. You said you moved in like pretty soon after you started dating. Would you recommend that to others, or what's your perspective on it now?
See, I'm not even gonna sit up here in front, like, because you can speak of it from a biblical standpoint. You can speak from like just morally, like whatever. For me personally, I thought it was one of the best things we ever did, because like we learned so much about each other that you don't learn about until marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like we knew like how to push each other's buttons. We knew like how I leave my dirty towels in the bathroom, and now it's not a problem later on until now and then. It's
still a problem.
Yeah. So like for me, it's like it was a really good I ain't gonna say decision. It was a choice that we made that I think is what really helped us to be how we are now. Now I ain't telling nobody to do it or not to do it. All I'm doing is giving my, you know what I'm saying?
From our experience.
From my experience and my perspective.
I think every relationship is different. And you have to do what is right for you guys. Just because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It's the same with parenting. So it's something that we believe did help us, but in some ways it definitely didn't. So there's, it's pros and cons.
People feel passionately about that issue.
What?
Passionately. Like
moving
whether
together?
You should live together.
We talked about this in our last episode with a couple that we interviewed. She was actually told that she wouldn't feel fulfilled within her relationship unless she had kids. And I'm a firm believer. I'm going to preach again. Okay. That, like you said, every relationship is different. I feel like the world tries to say, this is what you have to do. And if you do it, you'll be happy. And I don't think that's the case. I think every relationship is different and how you work through it and how, if you move in together or not, if it's all different.
Yeah.
But can I do it?
Do it.
Okay. So we ask every couple who comes on the show the same 3 questions, but you have to choose who goes first without knowing the questions.
Okay.
Who's going first? I'll go first.
Okay. It's nothing hard. Charlotte, what is your biggest pet peeve with Cedric?
We talked about one.
Oh my
already.
gosh. Probably that. Yeah. The washcloths in the shower is definitely one, but I would say this dude is already hard of hearing. I have to call his name 10 times before it registers sometimes. And he's like, why are you calling my name? I'm like, because you didn't respond. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves for sure.
So do you call my name a lot until I say something?
Yes. I don't know. You zone out or something.
Okay, now you get to go. What's your biggest pet peeve with Charlotte?
Oh, I know that off the top of my head. My biggest pet peeve is Charlotte just leaves stuff everywhere. She leaves cups and stuff in living room and the room for days, and it drives me nuts.
You know how you bring water cups to bed and then you set it on your nightstand?
Yeah, but it ends up being 5 or 6. I'm not even over exaggerating. Caribou cups, kitchen bowls. And next, her whole side of her bed. I'm like, Charlotte, come on.
But thankfully, I have a husband who's willing to do the dishes.
Oh my God.
So.
And I'm kind of a clean freak. I love I can't think if the house is messy. You know what I'm saying? And Charlotte, I'm just dude, I just can't.
It's organized chaos. I know where everything is.
No, it's not real.
I think we're reversed in our relationship. I can't think if things aren't organized. He likes the chaos.
And Shawn, I know Shawn's mad when she just starts cleaning things randomly.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh geez, what did I do? But what's crazy is
I just don't even talk to Cedric when he's cleaning.
Pretty clean.
Okay, wait. So
That's
question
funny.
number 2. Cedric, you go first this time. What do you love the most about Charlotte?
I love her passion. Not even just for me, just for human beings in general. When Charlotte listens to somebody or pours into someone, she doesn't give you a little bit. She gives you everything. And me being her husband, I obviously get the most of that. And it's funny because she was making a TikTok yesterday. I had to answer these 5 questions what do you love the most about me? And the first thing was her passion, just for human beings in general. And yeah, that's what I love the most about her.
And then Charlotte.
I would say just how committed Cedric is to everything that he does. When Cedric says he's going to do something, everybody else better buckle up because he's jumping in and he's doing it. And he's super determined, whatever it is, to not just do it, but to master it. So when he said, oh, I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber, I'm like, okay, I believe you because whatever it is, Ced really puts his heart into it and goes the extra mile to learn how to do it and do it well.
Yeah, bro, you're next level on the quality of your videos. I watch them. I'm I feel guilty because it's so much better quality than ours. You got the freaking perfect lighting, the perfect backdrop. You got good words to say.
It's honestly kind of annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dude,
he spends so much time. So.
Yeah, even just like the past 3 days, like I was like working like this like lighting thing, and I kept doing it over and over, and I finally got it last night. And then I got up at 3 a.m. because I was like, well, technically my viewers won't know that it's nighttime if I do it at 3 a.m, so I can get some sleep and just I can have the energy to like think about what I'm gonna say.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Funny.
So.
Takes time.
What is the best relationship advice that you've ever been given, or maybe it's something you've experienced and it's your own advice based off that experience?
You gotta go first.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think Shawn said it best earlier, that it's not just like one time and it clicks and that's it. You have to choose to love the other person every single day, because it's not just always butterflies and roses. Relationships are really hard, even the ones where you're closest. The ones that are closest seem to be the most challenging. And so I think everyone always asks us like, what do you guys do that makes it work? And I think it's just being committed to choosing each other and choosing to love one another every single day. And we don't always get it right. Like there are plenty of days where we're like, by the end of the day, we're at each other's throats and we're like, wow, we really sucked it up today. But thankfully, I've got a partner who the next day we wake up and we choose each other again.
I think the best relationship advice I've ever gotten, I think I read it in a book or something. I don't remember where I got it from, but it stuck with me. But it was like, I have to make sure that I work on myself before I go to Charlotte with these internal issues that I have going on. Because a lot of the times I would like be upset for no reason, or be sad or didn't want to talk. And it was because I wasn't doing the work to myself to figure out what was wrong. And instead I would just go to Charlotte and dump it on her and like, you don't understand me. When I really wasn't really understanding myself. I wasn't doing the work. And I've been doing like a lot of things internally to make me understand my emotions more. And that has helped us with our communication. It has helped me so much to be able to like listen to her when I actually hear her call me. And yeah, so I think the biggest thing is just working on my own, not my own self, but my own stuff before presenting it to Charlotte, because therefore I can come correct and clear and she can understand me.
It's so much easier just to point the finger at your husband who leaves washcloths in the towel or washcloths in the shower or whatever. But like I've got my own stuff. He's got his own stuff. So that's a good one. Yeah.
Cedric, Charlotte, I'm thankful to call you friends. We're thankful to call you friends. Thankful that you create the content that you do that's so family focused and uplifting and encouraging to families. And I'm excited to see what's next for you guys. We're definitely going to be taking some parenting tips from you. Yes. And we'll see how this second child goes at some point. But thanks for taking the time to talk today.
No, thank you for having us, dude. We were really excited to do this. So thank you so much for having us, and hope y'all hanging in there with the baby. I know it's tough.
Y'all just pray for us too.
We will.
It's hard over here.
I can't imagine. It's chaos with one.
You gonna learn. You gonna learn. Don't worry about it.
And if you guys haven't, please make sure to check out their YouTube channel and their social platforms. Everything will be in the description below.
That's right.
They are awesome. They put out amazing content. They're awesome to follow. Thank you guys.